Well, dang, Mark. I was so deeply touched because I got into this knowing nothing. Bona fide nun, teaching 7th and 8th grade boys English, grammar, and religion, and fell into this thing. Maybe y'all all feel you fell into it too, but I really fell into it. When Tim Robbins was working on the blooming screenplay for the movie A Dead Man Walking, kept saying the nun's in over her head. And if you see Susan Sarandon in that movie, you see you don't have a nun walking into prison in charge, see them big eyes there going, I didn't know what I was doing. And it was the compassion that I kept thinking of the St. Bonaventure quote, don't ask just for understanding. Ask for the fire. Ask for the fire. And so here I am, first of all, awakening to justice, and that's in my book, River of Fire. First, I had to awaken that to be a follower of Jesus in the deep religious tradition, and that's true in Judaism too, I'm looking at my friend Marshall here, you can't just be charitable to people around you, all of whom are privileged, all of whom have had, great educations and everything. It's about justice. It's about understanding about the systems. Understand about you're in privilege because you had a wonderful mom and daddy. Daddy was a lawyer, taught you to think, taught you to read, taught you to make arguments. You had great nuns, teachers. You became a public speaker when you were in high school in your junior year. You were handed all this stuff. And I love the words of Jesus, and I think about it of everybody in this room tonight with Mark and Wendy and all of us. Blessed are your eyes that see what you see, and hearts that feel what you feel, because we can call it grace to be awake. We could have spent our whole lives involved in trivial stuff and not being awake to the deep human rights issues of our day, but we are awake. And to be awake, because I was 40 before I woke up. I think God's given me a long life so I could do something with it. But to wake up about stuff and to have that fire in your heart to take those cases. I've accompanied 6 people to execution. Many of them didn't have a chance. I'm with a man now on death row 30 years. 30 years and he's innocent. And what happened to him in this case in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, of what the prosecutor did, of what they hid and how they lied. 30 years. He's still on death row. Those venerable people out there, I'm going to write a book. I got to write Manuel's story, Manuel Ortiz. If any of y'all want to see me afterwards, just a few ideas about what I could do. I'm going to write the book, but it's not going to be enough to write a book. I don't know what to do to get him in the courts. What can we do? And he says to me, please cease to Helen, he's from El Salvador, do not let me leave Angola in a pine box, because the other death penalty is take away the death penalty, and then he gets life without parole and he dies at Angola. The other death in prison. And I don't know exactly. I know I want to I will write a book about this, but I know he's going to need something else creative. Just open to ideas. So Mark Olive. Here I get a phone call. I never know how I'm going to get these people on death row. I don't seek them out. They come to me, all right? And I get a phone call from this guy, Richard Glossip. And here's the voice on the phone. Sister Helen, I apologize. I know I didn't ask your permission or nothing, but I think they're going to execute me here in Oklahoma. I didn't ask your permission. I'm sorry, but would you be with me if I'm executed? I hear that voice. I know that voice. I had just written a book, The Death of Innocence, about 2 innocent people I had accompanied to execution, Joseph Odell in Virginia and Dobie Gillis Williams in New Orleans, in Louisiana. It breaks your heart. African-American man. Atkins happened a few years after he was executed. He had an IQ of 65, and they killed him. And here's this voice on the phone. And you know this, everybody sitting in this room knows this, about what vocation means. It means to get a call, to get a summons. Would you do this? Would you take this case? Would you be part of this? And you say yes. A part of you says yes sometimes ahead of you. Your soul's ahead of you, and you don't even know why. But you say yes, and you put your boat in the river, and next thing you know, you are in whitewater rapids, and it's life or death. And sometimes they die, and you're with them. And sometimes, please God, you have a victory, and that human life is saved. And Mark was ticking them all off there, but each one of those human lives, the difference between life and death. And we get to be a small part of that. So here's this guy, Richard Glossip. So I know we're going to need to get it. Well, first of all, he asked me to be with him. I say yes. I mean, nobody's going to call me and ask if I'll be with them when they're executed. And I go, too busy, can't do that. No way, you wouldn't either. So I say yes to that. But then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I bolt awake in my bed because I already knew about the two people I'd been with who really were innocent and were executed. And I go, from what I know about this case, he's innocent. So I knew what I had to do. So I got on the phone. I called 3 people. One was Susan Sarandon to get on the media because we got to start getting the story out. First thing I learned from Amnesty, create doubt. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah, Richard Glossip even had 2 trials. Called Susan. She and Robert Redford had death row stories on CNN. I knew she could get me on. I said, Susan, because we're buddies. I call her, she responds. I call her sister. She calls me sister. I say I'm the real nun. She knows I'm the real nun. She didn't do any other nun movies after she did Damn Near One. If you see the movie she was in afterwards, she just made sure, because she knew what had happened to Julie Andrews. She got stuck in that nun thing for a lot. Nun thing was over. It was over. But boy, every time I call her, boy, she's in there. She's great. Calls her, called a connection to the Pope. Pope Francis was second. And then I called Denny LaBeouf. I said, Denny, I need a good lawyer. Who could be a good lawyer for this guy? And she goes, well, go for the top. Go for Mark Olive, see if he can. Call him up. That laconic voice he's got, answers the phone. And I go, Mark. And here's the Mark thing. Here's the iconic brand name that Mark Olive is going to be known for. I'm known for Dead Man Walking. I got in the vernacular as soon as the movie came out. He's going to be known for being the pickle buster. He said, he's in a pickle. I'm going, yeah, he is. He's in a pickle. We just had a few days to execution. There were 3 times Richard Glossip was almost executed. And that's why I love defense attorneys and people that do the work. You're in the breach, and you're right in there. And, Mark, I forgot exactly what y'all did, but there were 2 people on the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals that heard what you said. There were 2, I think, that had reservations, and that was enough to stop the first execution. And, of course, everything else depends on that. He dies with the first, it's over. And then there were 2 others on the brink like that. And then I called another friend of mine, who also, Don Knight, who from Colorado, and he took the case, and he's been working it ever since. But these 2 men have saved Richard Glossip's life. We had 11-zip decision of the Supreme Court to stay the execution. You have the daggone Attorney General of the bloomin' state filing with the Supreme Court, admitting the state made an error. And so we're hopeful that they're going to grant cert on that. some of the groups I love to talk to the most are defense attorneys. I've talked to them in Mississippi and different states of defense attorneys who get in there with people. Often that defense attorney is the only dignity that their clients ever have, of people who care for them and show it. And I love you. I love what you do. I'm glad to be in your company. Glad to hear every one of those stories tonight. So Mark is the last one to say, yeah, hold me up. Yeah, I'm the hero. Look at all the people he brought in who deserve the Guiding Hand Award, as do we all. Look, may we do it with passion and with love. And when we gather at events like this tonight around Mark, but around all the people who have done this great work, it's like there's the fire, we're blowing on the coals to keep that flame burning. I mean, St. Paul said, stir into flame the gift of God that is in our souls. And that's what we're doing around you tonight, Mark, you and all of you. So thank you for letting me be here and for feeding me, for giving me some wine and being in great company. And may everybody have a great life, do great work. And thank you for letting me be a little part of this. Thank you.